The topic of this week's podcast is how can you tell if this podcast is real? And I proposed it to you based upon an experience I had over Christmas. So over Christmas, me and my wife were sitting in the living room. We have a TV with YouTube on it, and I saw this one video, and it had like 1 million views.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't quite remember exactly what the video title was, but I think it was political. It was political, and it was like it pulled me in, and I was like, okay, I'll just watch a few minutes of it and see if it's worthwhile. I ended up watching the whole thing. It was like a good 13, 14 minutes long. It was, or maybe even longer. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a significant amount of time, and I watched the whole thing. And I was like, wow, this is really good. And so I wanted to, and I want to show you. I don't know if I have shown you. I want to show you like a clip of what this video is.
You haven't shown me, man.
So I haven't shown you. Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah. Begging. In Caracas, the United States is doing the unthinkable. After years of trying to destroy Nicolas Maduro, after seizing his plane.
This is a very intelligent guy.
And putting a $15 million
this guy is
Washington.
The IMF. He's a director at the IMF.
Uh-huh.
He's sitting. He's got credentials. He knows about
like
money.
A serious guy.
He's a serious guy. Yeah, and he was really just lecturing to you like information about how obviously some geopolitical activity. So he seems like he's got the credentials. He knows what he's doing. So then what I did was I was like, that was brilliant, mate. Oh God, what a good. Oh, I feel clever. I feel clever. I've watched you. I want to watch more of your stuff. I feel well informed. So I want to watch more of your stuff. So I then went to his channel again. This was on YouTube, but it's gone from there. So now I found equivalents on TikTok. So then I went to his other channel, and I started playing the next video, which was this.
But looking at this from the outside, I do not see a victor. Elon Musk has not bought a company. He has bought a ticket on the Titanic after.
So do you hear the difference?
Yeah, I mean this one, the sound quality is not very good, but yeah. he's got a different voice, and weirdly, he's sat in the exact same room, wearing the same shirt, in the same pose. The sounds of the room are very different, and his voice is different.
Yeah, his voice is very different. It took me a while. I think I watched a couple of minutes of it before I was like, wait a second. I brought Jeanette over because Jeanette's really, really good with voices and accents and things like that. And I was like, listen, am I going crazy? She goes, no, it's a completely different accent. So then I went on this journey, this rabbit hole of a journey. Because I was like hooked on what the hell is going on. What is going on? And then I looked at his this. If you see the picture, and this was the same profile picture that was on YouTube.
That's not even him.
So it's not even him. And I thought, it's rare that you go maybe you're bald now. Maybe you're bald now in the picture. My literal profile photos on social media or with me with hair, because I haven't had a good one with me being bald. But the other way around is kind of fairly unreal, right?
The other way around doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
Doesn't really make a lot of sense, right?
You've grown a lot of hair since the only profile picture taken.
Yeah. And so I was like, what the hell is going on? And I researched the guy. The guy's a real guy. I've forgotten the gentleman's name. He's a gentleman, and he gave his details and his biography. So I searched the guy, and he looks like this. He looks like this. Right. He looks a bit older than this now, but this is what he looks like. So, I think you and me both get exactly what's going on. This is AI generated, fully AI generated. A full kind of 20, 30 minute video that's AI generated. And once I saw it, now you cottoned on pretty much straight away, which is hey, look, it's the background's exactly the same. That's a bit weird.
Mm.
Unless you recorded immediately afterwards, and the whole of the video, it's rare to have this level of continuity.
Also, when you flicked over to his profile page and it had all the videos listed together, the catalog, there were a whole bunch where the
person's changed.
The thumbnail image looked kind of identical because he sat in the exact same position Which like you said, they could have like done one big interview and cut it up into a series of small videos. It's not impossible. And I was primed. You know, you kind of set me up. But like I'm looking for something
you knew what was coming.
Anomalous.
Yeah. But imagine being like me, and I was like, I felt completely duped. I'd given it. I'd fully bought into this guy was real. If it hadn't have been for the accent change, I wouldn't have cottoned on. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have cottoned on. Now when I rewatch it, it feels clear. There were cues in the way, like he does this, and then the eyebrows kind of go up almost algorithmically, you know, and like the way it works. And I think you've spoken on stage. I've spoken on stage. You've spoken to a camera. I've spoken to a camera. It's really hard to speak.
It's really hard.
For like
he's very laser focused on the camera. Like his eyes are
laser focused on the camera. They don't go that way. They don't go that way. He's not thinking.
Yeah. And if anybody's watching this as video instead of listening to our podcast, they'll see our eyes are all over the place. You know. And it's not just because of a lack of media training. It's also just because it's natural.
Just natural, yeah. And I think that's and so like cut to the chase. The video wasn't real. But then I don't know if you cottoned on, because somebody I'll just share it again really quickly, because I think this is another important part of this to bring to the discussion. Let me do that one, actually. That one. Because look at that. So this is on TikTok. On YouTube, it had millions, must be millions before it got shut down, views.
Yeah.
But this got plenty of likes, plenty of comments. And if you look at the comments, look, the first one, yes, pretty sure this is AI.
Yeah.
But if you look at the rest of the comments, you know,
they're like political commentaries based on what he's talking about.
Yeah, they're bought in. They're bought in fully in between.
These are not AI.
Yeah. And so, you know, they're bought in. They're bought in, right? It's bought in. So that's very interesting part of this whole deal. So you might also not have noticed, but one of the comments on one of the other videos that had cottoned on it was AI, pointed out that accent was Yanis Varoufakis.
Oh,
it was his voice.
Because I mean, he's got fake videos all over the place at the moment, and he's even spoken publicly about it. But it's interesting that they're using his voice on someone else's face. That's kind of a weird one.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up. Because
you can kind of imagine the way. Yeah, I didn't pick up as well. It was only because I saw it in a comment. I was like, yeah, my God, it is.
Which one was it? The first one?
And the comment was, I think it was the second one. The comment, then the comment afterwards was going, no, it's not. It's Indian. No, it's Yanis. All right, dude, that's not Indian.
Yeah, we're very open to suggestibility as humans. You know, I mean that in itself is interesting. That you could hear something and then someone says, "Oh, it's Yanis Varoufakis," and then you might hear Yanis Varoufakis. Maybe it is.
Oh yeah, maybe I'm hearing Yanis Varoufakis. Maybe I'm hearing Yanis Varoufakis because I think the leading thing you leaded onto there is because I think a month or a few weeks later I saw a video from Yanis Varoufakis. I think you watched it as well, where he said, where the basic premise of the video is he is now the most faked person on YouTube, because you search for Yanis and the first few videos are, and he's there and he's got his hand, shock, geopolitics. And he says all of them are fake, and they had millions of views. So there was a recent kind of like spate of like identity theft videos, and then that kind of like posed this whole like interesting question I wanted to explore with you, which is like, how can you tell whether this podcast or a video or something, how can you tell if it's real? Because it raises kind of a lot of questions, and I know we've kind of like covered these questions. I'll just like briefly cover like the things we wanted to like explore on this episode. Is like, well, what do you really mean by real?
Yeah.
What do we mean by how can you tell if it's real? How can you actually tell if something is real? So what do we mean by real? Let's define it. How can you tell if something is real? Does it matter if it's real? Like, look, there's people commenting as if the commentary is real. Like, does it really matter if you're talking, if the thing is talking about? Well, does it even matter? And I think and I think it might be changing based upon kind of what we talked about. I think like there is this feeling that we have of being cheated. And I felt cheated. I felt I didn't feel cheated as I was watching the video, but when I found
But once
out,
you realize,
I felt cheated. So why do we feel cheated? Like, what is this thing? And I think those were. And I think we have the last question we had is why are we so certain that the news we get from humans
is real.
is any more real? Is real. So there's a couple of topics there. Yeah, I know I've introduced it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Initial hot takes, thoughts. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that this is. I'm really curious to know where this kind of goes as a society, because I really feel like last year when Google released Video 3, I feel like that was kind of a landmark thing. I know that the others are sort of caught up pretty quick like they do.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was a real kind of turning point where you no longer can you tell that anything that you've seen online or on TV, basically on a screen, is real unless you had seen it. Well, I'll caveat this may not even be true, but you when I say real in this context, I mean it was filmed with a camera. I'm gonna like just put that little caveat there. And I think if you'd seen it in the past before this technology existed, and it may have existed before it was released to the public, I'm just going to also say that. So there may be a time lag between technology existing and it being publicly available, and publicly known. But if you go back to like, when we were growing up as kids and something was on TV and there's a video of it and you go back to the archives and find it, I think you can be fairly confident that there was a camera that filmed that. Doesn't mean that what is in the film is true.
Yeah.
But you can be fairly sure that there was a camera that filmed it. And I feel like we've now entered an era where you can't have that certainty, even if it doesn't matter where you see it, whether you see it on the news or on YouTube or cinema or wherever, like but the technology now exists that it could have been generated and that nothing in real physical world ever happens that was then like captured on camera. So that leaves us in a strange place where this whole idea that like, well, I've seen it. I've seen the video. I've seen it on TV. Like I saw the video of this thing happening, therefore it's true. Is no longer a valid kind of construct. And that's challenging in terms of just non-fiction content, should we say. Like fictional content, it kind of doesn't matter. Like we watch movies with CGI and cartoons and things all the time. And like, well, yeah, you're like, it's fiction. You're watching because it's a good story. It's entertaining. It doesn't really matter. But non-fiction content, it kind of throws everything up into the air of like, well, can I really believe anything that I see? And then that extrapolates out into things like court cases where, like CCTV footage is one of the most solid forms of evidence you can give to convict somebody of a crime. And now it's like, well, that's super easy to fake. It's easier to fake that than it is to fake like an interview like you just showed me. The CCTV footage is always grainy. It's always a bit sketchy anyway.
I think there's a word here which I think is very important. I think it's a very useful word for us just to narrow down in on. Because for me, when I heard that word in terms of this argument, it really made a lot of sense. So in terms of like truth, like what do we like? There's several kinds of truth, and I'm not too sure if I'm quoting, the official academic like list of things that are, defines the truth, but these are kind of in my journeys. This is what I found. So there's like not truth, just reality. There's objective reality. There's objective reality, which is like what actually exists, what actually happens. It's got nothing to do with who saw it. It's there,
Yep.
right? There's an asteroid in the middle of the solar system. No one's seen it. It's objective reality. It's there. And then there's like subjective reality.
Yeah.
So like it's your reality for you, your experience, it's like experiential, and it's always filtered through your senses, your mood, your energy levels, all this other stuff, your context. It's subjective reality, subjective, objective, and subjective. And then there's kind of like there's narrative reality. So a story that we build around events and things like that. There's like the stories, and it's almost like maybe fictional, but there's kind of an element of that you, when you're hearing a story, is kind of an, you want to be clear, like, is it fictional, is it non-fictional? And then I think the word that really clicked it for me was this testimony, this testimonial reality. What we accept is real because someone we trust told us. That's testimony, right? And it comes from like I can never pronounce it properly. Epistemology.
You did it.
Epistemology, right? I did it. Like the study of knowledge, right? So they count there's kind of 4 fundamental sources of knowledge. A, perception, what you can see. B, reason, what you can work out like logically in your head. The next one is memory, like what you can remember, however imperfect, what you can recall from like past experience. It's not about the nature of reality. This is about the nature of knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, how can we know things? You can know things because you remembered them. And the other thing the only way you know things is because of testimony, because what other people tell you. And I think the profound thing for me was like one of the things is that pretty much everything we know is because of testimony.
Yeah.
Is because of testimony. I don't know that the Antarctica exists because I've never perceived it.
Yeah.
I could maybe reason about it. I never went to it before, so I have no memory of it. I'm relying on testimony.
Yeah.
That it exists.
Yeah, and you're building
maybe some reason. I'd argue
model of the
if I believe
world for yourself based upon the various sources of testimony that you have used as evidence, effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, that kind of there was really kind of what that felt was landed here, because I watch AI generated videos fairly. I see it. I know it's CGI is AI generated as well. Like I watch Avengers. I'm not sitting there going, "Oh, Iron Man isn't real. Oh, I feel lied to." But there's like if I'm watching a CCTV thing that I know is intentionally, it's been, look, this is a fake CCTV, like a CCTV, a fake alien of an alien civilization's Ring doorbell, right? You'd be aware of it's not real testimony. But there's, like that guy in particular, he's sitting and he's talking to you face to face. He's staring at my eyes and he's telling you his opinion.
The video is of something quite
it's testimony.
Normal and mundane. It's not that the video is of something that is inherently unbelievable in itself.
Yeah. But it's also I think it's, for me, it's like he's giving the literal mechanism of his communication is he's giving his experience, his knowledge, his testimony of a geopolitical situation.
Yeah.
And it just turns out it turns out a human being is not giving me their testimony.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is why it's the same way. Like, imagine it'll be the same way as if it's a court case and somebody goes up and gives as a witness and says, I definitely saw this happen. Then you find out later on that they didn't, that somebody else told them that it happened and they're parroting. And as human beings, we would go, no, I don't know. That's not a witness.
Yeah.
That's hearsay. That's not the thing. Like you're not giving testimony. You're cheating.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, where the cheated feeling comes from.
Yeah. I think so. It's I had a kind of a different but related experience last year during the kind of research phase for the book that I'm writing. And because I'm covering some quite unusual and in cases controversial ideas, and I wanted to make sure it's as robust as possible. I'm not just like spurting out stuff that people are like, oh, well, that's not true. And I'm not even trying to tell people it's true. I'm just trying to like get them thinking. But because it's like trying to stretch their thinking, where I've said things that's maybe like something that happened in history, or it's like an event or something like that, or something that was like scientists said, I wanted to reference where I've got that from. I'm not just making stuff up. Doesn't mean it's true, but like somebody said it.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time like fact checking things that I found in places. It's not just like I found it here. I then go and try and like find out like, well, where did that come from? And And what I found is this concept of primary sources is really interesting. So if you sometimes when just reading like the actual fact checking websites, sometimes they refer to like, well, there's a lack of primary sources that like give evidence that this thing really happened. And I was like, oh, primary sources, that's interesting. What exactly is the definition of a primary source? And like, so you look that up and, oh, primary source is like an academic paper or a video or, a manuscript, a book, something like that. Okay, yeah, well, that makes sense. That makes sense then. And then, but then you're like, but wait, but anyone can write a book. I'm writing a book. That's a primary source, apparently. Academic paper. Video, I get, like, before these AI generated ones, like, okay, yeah, there's some footage, you've seen it, maybe that makes sense. But I sort of found myself, as I was researching things, struggling to find what I considered primary sources for anything. And so I'd read a book, and in the book they would talk about something, and they'd reference it. And then I'd go and look up the reference. And then that reference would lead me to another reference. The funniest example I had was basically, it's like a book led me to The Guardian. The Guardian led me to an environmental NGO's website where they had an article about this thing and, this fact, right? The environmental NGO had referenced Wikipedia, where Wikipedia stated this fact, and they'd referenced it. So I was like, great, I'm nearly at the end of the trail. I've nearly found the primary source. and like, check the reference on Wikipedia. It links to The Guardian, the same article that had led me to the environmental NGO. And it's like, hang on, this is a circular loop of references. And there's no primary source. But then, like, I had lots of experiences like that where there just didn't seem to be what I would consider a primary source. Ultimately, somewhere along the line, it's testimony. It's what you're saying. Somebody said that this happened. I mean, most quotes, so many good quotes from famous people that I was like, oh, that'd be a great quote to include in my book. And then I look it up because I want to check. I don't want to quote them if they never said it. Nearly every quote I've looked up, I can't find any evidence that these people ever said it. You get all these people who are like, oh, you know what, like Winston Churchill said, da da da. And like, well, yeah, maybe. Well, no, probably he didn't. Unless you got a video of him saying it or like a book that he wrote. But even those things ultimately are what I would call, what you're calling testimony, I would call anecdotes, right? Because in our world, in our like rational scientific society that we live in, there's basically a spectrum of truth. And at one end of the spectrum is like scientific hard truth. And at the other end of the spectrum is anecdotes. And people will they use the word anecdote as like a derogatory term. It's like, well, that's just anecdotal evidence. It doesn't really count for anything. Only hard evidence counts. And when you get down to it, everything is anecdotal because, you know, even the scientific papers, like there's research by people, you know, academics looking at scientific papers to find out like how accurate are they, like how often do they lie or just misrepresent things or have like fundamental flaws in their experimental model methods and things like this. And like it's actually quite shocking how badly they rate the kind of the general state of scientific papers. So, but even if you have a perfect scientist who's very pure and they're diligent and they're like really good at what they do, when it comes down to it, they've written a paper about something that they witnessed. So it's a witness testimony. You call it an academic paper, but it's a witness testimony that they did an experiment and this is what they found. And you weren't there. And that's how like papers get faked. Because
you didn't do the experiment.
You didn't do the experiment. You weren't there.
You didn't do the experiment. You're reading something that somebody else said happened.
Yeah.
And it's trust.
It's trust. Exactly. Do you trust the people who this testimony is coming from? And you know, some people might have written an academic paper and you trust those people and you think this is a solid paper and I believe what it says. And other people you think, oh, they're a bit fishy and maybe I don't believe what they've done in their study. But then equally the same is true of just like everything else in life that somebody might have had an experience that hasn't been part of a scientific study or an academic study, and they had an experience in life and they tell you something that might sound unbelievable, and it's like, well, do I believe them or do I not believe them? It's just we have this kind of, we put certain people on a pedestal and we say, and we tell ourselves a story that we've got hard evidence for that, but you know, and some evidence is harder. Like if I've seen a video from the 80s, I'm going with the 80s as like they definitely couldn't have like done it with AI then. If I've seen a video from the 80s, I think that's like, you know, fairly hard evidence. But there's so many things with video evidence where people say, oh, no, that's not what it looks like. You know, that video is fake.
Well, we look at loads of those, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
UFO
exactly.
videos,
So,
all sorts of stuff.
So it kind of brings you back to this thing of like, okay, so AI is like, it's pushing us into a new era where it's forcing us to confront the fact that like we'll never again be able to really know that anything on a screen has really happened in the physical world. But it's interesting that maybe we never had as much certainty as we thought we did before that.
Yeah, and it's really because one of the places my research into this took me was this concept of the epistemic. It's the epistemic backstop. It's called the epistemic backstop, right? So before recordings, testimony was someone's word.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine being in a court case in like the 1800s. Before the recordings, testimony was someone's word. And so recordings, just, if you imagine it, just completely flipped the way the world works. Like, if, for instance, if I want to get my passport renewed, I have to sign the form and it has to be witnessed. And it has to be witnessed by a professional.
This has always cracked me up.
It says professional.
This has always cracked me up because the first time I had to do it, I had to go to my next door neighbor because he was an airline pilot. And airline pilots apparently are like sufficiently trustworthy that they can witness your passport application. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And since then I've had people like get me witness things as a company director makes me sufficiently credible to witness important documents.
It's credible. Yeah. But not a gardener.
Not a gardener. You can't trust gardeners.
A window cleaner.
No.
Can't trust gardeners. Can't trust it. But that's because, like, you know, before recordings, you had to take testimony. And so why did they say professionals? Because, I mean, I think the typical, I don't know if we use that term today for the term professional, but the historical reference for professional was someone who belongs to a profession or a professional body or a guild. And therefore you could be like if you can be struck off from being a doctor in the UK by being struck off by the British Medical BMS, I forgot what it's called, society. So you have to have a certain moral and ethical code, or you can just be stopped. There's no moral and ethical code society for gardeners, or maybe there is. I'm not aware of it.
Yeah,
but there's no moral code. So the idea,
I think it's got
like
a bit off piste in the modern times.
That's modern times. No, you gotta get gardeners like you used to. But so that was kind of like, so back in the day, when you wanted to get testimony, you wanted to believe things that are going on, you were going to these people who theoretically, I don't know if the reality of the world in those days mirrored what people said was the truth. I don't know, maybe professionals lied all the time and they just got away with it. But the story everybody was told is that you can trust a professional, and that their testimony is good. But what the epistemic backstop did was, when recordings came along, they created like a whole other independent way of having evidence.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have to just go with the trust of, when you had a court case, it wasn't just like, oh, I've got a doctor who backed me up, and all you've got is a gardener as a witness. My doctor's going to say that. So that was where you were judging testimony by like a character. But recordings came along, and it kind of like a beautiful leveler of our world. And so it's like this safety net which keeps like people honest. Recording of this became this safety net which keep people honest. And you can maybe argue that kind of the world just became a better place with recordings.
Yeah.
Because it just kept people like more
from a
honest.
kind of legal evidence point of view. I think so, because before that, this whole thing of like professionals and who's qualified is a social hierarchy. You know, you can give all the arguments you want for like why these people are more credible than others, but when it comes down to it, as you know, the guy toiling in the field is considered not credible, and pretty much anybody of the educated class will either be in one of those categories or they'll have a mate who is, right? So
yeah. It's a class aside, isn't it? It's the definition. Maybe record. Yeah. So maybe recordings. Well, like maybe this. I won't put it all on recording. Maybe recordings are one of the things that helped us mostly get rid of like the class society, because now you could just believe anybody, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that backstop is what is that's what is now, I'd say, completely eroded. Like I don't think people have fully grokked yet that it's gone. It's completely gone. It does not exist anymore. There's no ability for us to trust anything. So now, if history comes back, then it means that we're going to increasingly judge things by like who's saying it. And maybe maybe that's also why this video was so, I felt so cheated, because this is somebody who's apparently one of the professionals whose testimony should be believed, and it's not even him. It's not even him. So it's like it's on so many levels. It's just we've lost something, and I don't know where that's going to take us.
No, I mean, on a slightly different but related note, and you know, I rarely say positive things about social media, but on that like leveling issue, like that is one of the things that social media, in the good sense, or the internet, I should say more broadly, like the kind of the like the hopeful kind of early vision of the internet was that kind of democratization of information and democratization of voices. And it was a leveler in its own way, that like, okay, well now I can get information from lots of people, not just from those people who have been put in a position to, you know, speak publicly through the very limited channels that we have. So that was a great leveler in recent history. But then obviously, you know, there's lots of chaos that comes from that leveling. Just lots of noise of so many people saying things. And and you don't know how they're true. And then AI is like this next level where it's like, well, now you doesn't even need to be a real person producing that information, even in video format. Now it is just information.
Because Facebook doesn't. Yeah. You got people who've got to remember, like, Facebook doesn't care that humans are interacting with you. They just care that you're interacting with it.
You're interacting with them.
So from their perspective, they'd love, into them. So from their perspective, they don't care at all whether your entire feed is AI generated.
Yeah.
There's no moral, ethical. There's no business imperative for them to make sure that's not the case. They just want you to stay addicted, so you click the ad links every now and again.
Yeah.
So there's very little.
Yeah, and if AI generated content
is, it was
well, if it's more addictive, they would prefer that. And also, I mean, my friend Ed was recently around, and he played to me a couple of songs like recent kind of releases that were AI generated. Yeah. I was blown away how good they were. Actually, like really, like emotionally moved by them. But then the thing that struck me was that this is great for Spotify, because if they can generate really top class music, royalty free, right? Just with a computer, and we all love it and we listen to that, the more of that they can feed us, the more money they make, because they're not having to pay the artists and the record companies and all the rest of it. And I think the same is true with like YouTube and the social media companies, that I'm not saying they're doing this, I'm just saying hypothetically, like, actually for them, if they're not having to pay kind of a share of ad revenue to creators, and they can just pump out content that we're addicted to and keep lapping up, then that's going to boost their profits. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the Spotify one is because they have done they have been doing this for quite a while, and because there've been times sometimes I just want to listen to some like calming stuff, or even to get the kids to sleep, and there's like piano playlists and things like that, and I'm like, this is really nice. But then you realize afterwards, and I've realized afterwards, I'm like, oh, it's all just AI generated. And the way you could, there was a mechanism you could tell. This is interesting. How can you tell if stuff is AI generated? On Spotify, there's I've forgotten quite what it was. There's the way the thumbnail looks, and I don't know if they do it intentionally to kind of give you a hint, but I've forgotten what it was exactly. It's either the thumbnail is never a person, or the thumbnail of the playlist looks like I've forgotten the details. But there was a visual cue, whether intentional or unintentional, that you can tell whether it's a Spotify fake playlist. And obviously they don't have to pay royalties, so it's incentivize them. Interestingly enough, probably trained on the artists.
Absolutely. And they've got all the data of what's popular. What do people enjoy listening to, right?
Yeah. And now it's gotten to the point, and I sometimes I'll find a new artist on Spotify, and I'm like, are you real?
Are you real? Yeah.
I don't want to listen to you if you're not real.
There's something weird, isn't there? Because like,
I don't want to.
This music that Ed played to me was so good. I genuinely thought it was one of them was like, oh, this is one of my favorite songs. I've only just heard it, and it's AI generated. But I haven't gone back and listened to it since. Like, I listened to it out of curiosity, and then every time I think, I'll go and listen to that song again, there's something kind of icky. I just have this icky feeling of like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, and maybe that's just like a kind of a cultural thing, that give it a few years and I'll have softened and it'll be normalized and I'll not care anymore. Maybe. But
I think does it? I mean, I don't know what type of music it was that you were listening to, but if it was like a human being singing lyrics,
it was.
For me, that's testimony. That's it was. So that's
testimony.
That's
and
like
they were beautiful lyrics,
human being talking
meaningful.
About,
that you kind of hope that there's a human being behind it who really meant that.
Yeah. And it's not. And when it's not, it's like, I don't know. Imagine it was a real artist, and then they told this beautiful love story about heartbreak, and when you're listening to it, like I think you know, I know, I'm sure they have this. Not a lot of the best music in the world is from artists who are expressing something that they've experienced, and you hear the backstory behind it, and it makes a song so much more special.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Because it's like a testimony of their experience and their feeling and what they were going through.
Yeah.
But if there was an artist, and it's almost like a maybe like, you know, generated pop bands or engineered pop bands where they just get given a bunch of lyrics and they sing it and it sounds good, and you listen to it and you're like, yeah, it sounds good, but you know, I know what I'm listening to. I'm listening, you know, someone handed you a bunch of lyrics and they taught you how to dance and it was an X Factor, and fair enough. Like, there you go. You're a very good singer. You've got the talent. But you kind of know where you're sitting with this. It's not testimony.
Yeah. So you're engaging with it on a surface level that it sounds nice, but you don't have that deeper emotional connection with the fact that, like, there's a really deep story behind where this song came from or what it means to the artist who wrote it and sung it and so on.
Yeah. So there's also this other term that came along as well. Oh
no, go on. This other term.
Go on. There's also other term that came up. Another term that came on as related to it, which was I love this term, the liar's dividend.
Oh,
the liar's dividend.
What does that mean?
Because because like there's AI. So it's the other side of the coin to the impact of AI generated like fake like testimonial style videos, like, you know, like we mentioned the CCTV. So they don't just create false testimony, they let people discredit true testimony. So that's the other side of the equation. It ruins it on both sides of the equation. So
you could generate fake stuff that casts doubt upon other forms of evidence.
Or no, you don't even need to do that. You could just say, I mean, let me be very, very direct. Like, who's gonna believe anytime any video from this point forward comes out?
Oh, I see what you mean. So even if it is
any
real,
compromising situation,
I filmed something on my mobile phone,
say,
and then
it's
people
AI generated.
Well, I have already done that on a number of occasions. And actually, it's really sad because I really enjoy watching videos of human beings doing amazing things, whatever it is, whether it's like something kind of physical or like like an illusion or something, but like even an illusion, which is interesting because that is them trying to trick you. But like, I like watching illusions when someone's really done it, because it's like, wow, that's so impressive that they managed to make it look like that just happened. And I know it didn't, but they really made it look like it did. And there's a I mean, that is literally magic, right?
Amazing.
And I love watching things like that, and athletes doing crazy things that I think, wow, can a human being really do that? And in the last, I don't know, probably the last 6 months, there's been a bunch of stuff where I've seen it online, and there's been like a little moment where I've been like, oh, wow. And then I've thought, oh, it's probably AI generated. And I don't know if it is or not. But like, but now, in the past, it was just like, well, if I've seen it on video, then like this person did it. It's crazy, but they did it. And now I'm just like, oh, well, probably AI generated, you know. And there's even videos I've seen that Vanita's shown me from like Instagram where you've got, you know, like fitness people showing you something crazy that they did, and then they show you afterwards like that, oh no, I didn't really do it, it was AI. But they're just like, so they were admitting that it was AI, but you watch the thing first and you get rid of, you're like, wow, how did they do that? And then you get really disappointed that they didn't really do it. And I don't know, like now I think for me, it drives us more towards real experience. And I don't know how this holds up in terms of like court cases and things like that because of the whole, you know, evidence versus testimony issue. But in just general life, I feel like online information is becoming increasingly like, I don't know, just sort of less valid than real experience, which it always has been, but there's been an illusion that it wasn't. And I think in a way that's a sad thing, because we lose access to kind of like what we would consider credible sources of information, like at our fingertips. But on the other hand, I think it could be also a good thing at the same time, that we're like, okay, I need to trust myself more. I need to like engage more with the real world and trust what I've seen. And, you know, if I've seen that like person, you know, jump off the roof of a building onto the next building in real life, then whoa, that's a amazing thing to witness. But if I've seen it on the internet, yeah, you know, maybe not so much.
If a guy came along today, someone said I saw a guy walk on water today, you'd be like, fine, yeah, even like 100, you know.
Yeah.
There's like we won't like. It's a sad. Maybe there's a sad aspect to it, but I think maybe the sad aspect to it is we've become too lazy or too reliant on recordings as evidence of things.
Yeah.
And so when we see things, I think maybe we were talking before about how can we trust other things. You know, it's not just AI.
Yeah,
this stuff's maybe this
it's all
technology's been
forms
around
of
before, but
information.
you don't even need AI to fake videos.
No,
Yeah,
no,
you don't
and
need
you
AI
definitely
to fake
don't need
video.
it to fake.
It just takes more effort.
Yeah, exactly. And we're talking about videos. Like most information we get is in written format, and that's like the easiest thing to fake. I mean, you don't even need AI. You could literally just type out a document, save it as a PDF, and put it on the internet.
Yeah, release it on the internet. Yeah. So that's like so yeah. So we're now in this, and it both brings me back. Did you ever? I mean, so this I think ties to that. I think because it ties to the whole idea of like, can we ever trust anything as humans do as real? Did you ever follow the Hunter Biden laptop story? Did you ever follow?
I did
that
at the time. I don't.
that one?
It's not very fresh in my memory, to be honest. But I did at the time.
So yeah, so I mean, at the time it was like, look, that's like fake Russian engineered fake news. So it didn't even need to say it was AI. It was like some
right.
At the time,
exactly.
the only
Before AI, it was all Russian.
You
right?
create fakeness. It's all Russian. Well, I think what that meant was like to make something this fake and this convincing, you need a lot of resources. So of course it's a country.
Yeah.
Right now with AI, it's like Tom can make it. It's like this has reduced the cost of creating fakeness, but fakeness could always be created. But I remember I followed that, and I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of heard the different sides of the argument. I thought it was really wrong. Kind of I thought the whole idea of kind of removing that storyline and kind of banning it from various platforms was wrong. But by the by, then I watched it. Then I actually saw. Have you ever seen parts of what was on his laptop?
Not directly, no.
You ever seen parts of it? You ever watched? Not directly. It is fascinating, and I think one of the ones I wasn't too sure whether it was real or not. But the moment I knew it was real, and it wasn't like Russian, because Hunter Biden had. So do you know anything about that? So the Bidens, when they were younger, there was like a family of like there was like 3 boys, a girl, and Biden and his wife. And there was an accident in like the 70s, and Biden's wife and their daughter passed away. So then it was
This is Joe Biden.
It was 2 sons, Hunter Biden and
Hunter Biden's
Joe. Yeah.
who?
Joe Biden's son.
Yeah, but who died? Is it Hunter Biden's wife, or
Hunter Biden? No, Joe Biden's
Joe
wife.
Biden's wife, Hunter Biden's mother,
and Hunter Biden's mother and his sister died when they were young. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that Joe Biden and his 2 sons basically grew up for like 20, 30 years, like a really close, tight relationship. They were like a really tight bunch of people. And so what happened was Hunter Biden's brother got cancer and then passed away suddenly. And it's heartbreaking. It makes me want to cry. The whole family, they just imploded. Like deeply in love, like, 2 sons, a father lost their family, and one of the brothers dies. Hunter Biden basically imploded as a human being, just imploded and went on a self-destructive journey for like a year or two and just taking crack cocaine and just trying to basically kill himself, right, in the most, like, in the way possible. And one of the things, and his laptop was basically just the diary of that whole experience, which is why it was so damning for the whole thing. And one of the thing that really got to me was, like, one of the things on the laptop was a voice recording from Joe Biden to Hunter Biden, which was Joe Biden it's like a dad talking desperately trying to talk to his son who's lost in this drug journey and just saying, son, I love you. I love you. I love you. Just come home. We can fix everything. Just come home. Please come home. We'll fix it all. And it was Joe Biden. And I was like, at that moment, I was like, fuck, it's real. It's real. That's not Russian propaganda. That's a real human journey, a real human story. And the point I'm raising it today is if that came out today, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be AI generated.
Yeah. No, I think that's how we probably would feel. On the other hand, all this Epstein stuff has come out, and it's it's interesting how, for example, Bill Gates is not saying, "Oh no, that's all AI generated." It would be such an easy move for him to make at this point. And maybe he will. Maybe I don't know, but it's interesting how, like, our own sort of.
I think for the Epstein,
I was just going to say, like, it's interesting how we'll interpret information based on our kind of how we want the story to go. So if you're sort of bought in, I don't know, like, I don't know. It's interesting. Like,
I think it's Providence, though. I think it's
maybe it's Providence.
But isn't it Providence? Because we know that there's evidence that those things that are in the Epstein files were actually captured pre-AI. So everything that was kind of captured pre-AI, maybe like this last year or two is going to be this inflection point. Oh, I know. Do we know that? But like, there'll be this, like, maybe that's what people will say is like it's real. It was generated in 2022. If it's 2026, it's like, I don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah.
So there'll be like maybe this thing that people say, which is like, actually, no. There's evidence that was created in 1980 because testimony from people who say they watched it in 1990.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be this, like, there'll be this evidence that existed pre-AI, which we'll somehow trust more. And I'm saying that literally everything that comes from this point forward, like new stuff that happened, that theoretically happened in whatever it is in 2026 onwards, we won't trust at all.
No.
For moon landing.
Yeah, so many things. Well, this is the thing. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this to you in a message before we arranged this call, that, like, the new moon landing that they're planning to do, there's already, like, you know, lots of people have questions about the original moon landing. But the new moon landing is happening, like, perfectly timed with the emergence of this, like, AI content generation technology. And you know that, like, you know, like I said earlier, like, what we as the public get is never the bleeding edge, right? So and the people involved, you know, to go to the moon, you've got to have people at the highest levels of government, as well as, you know, SpaceX involved. You've got Elon Musk, who's also heavily involved in AI. So you've got this kind of convergence of, like, if there were people who had the technological capability at this point in time to use AI to fake a moon landing, like, they're the people who are saying that they're going to the moon. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to fake a moon landing. I'm just saying that it's a very strange time in history for this to be happening, because it's really, like, how will we know? And on the one hand, like, how will we know? And some people might say, well, that the answer to this is because now there are, like, lots of other countries who might have reasons to want to like say that the Americans faked it, and they have like their own space probes and they can verify it and all the rest of it. And I think to some extent that's true, but at the same time, that's also testimony from those governments, space agencies, whatever they might be, and whether they go along with the narrative. And the same thing would be true with the original moon landing. It's like, well, why didn't the Russians blow? If it was faked, why didn't the Russians just say so? It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, that's a very valid
Maybe theirs
question.
were faked as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
can't.
Maybe there are reasons that they can't. It just raises a lot of questions.
My theory on the moon, as an aside, like my theory on the moon landing was they went, it's real, but they also planned the backstop in case things went wrong because they really had to beat the Russians. And so I think that's like my best half-assed explanation of that. But the point is that they could have faked.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they didn't, they could have faked, and there's lots of evidence there. There's certain. I know there's other evidence there as well.
Yeah,
but like I think that speaks to one of our questions, which is like how can we tell whether the testimony of humans, whether the other news we're getting is
exactly right, and then you get into like lie detector tests and things like this. And there's another thing which apparently has been around since the 70s that no one's ever heard of, which is apparently way more accurate than lie detectors, which is some sort of throat frequency modulation like monitor, and it like there's micro vibrations that like are given off when somebody's not telling the truth, basically. I don't know how it works, but that's the general gist of it. So there are things that apparently are pretty accurate at picking out whether someone's lying or not. So maybe we'll have more of that in like court cases and things like this. But court cases are like really an edge case in a way. It's like, but what about the news? You know, then when they're reading the news, should they be hooked up to one of these things? But I also think that even if the news is sometimes telling us porcupines, I think often the newsreaders themselves believe they're telling the truth because they're just given a script and they just read it. So even that wouldn't necessarily tell us whether we're getting real information.
There's also I don't know if you watched it. Did you watch the Diddy documentary on Netflix? Did you ever dive into that Puff Daddy documentary? No. Anyway, I've dived into. I don't know if you've gone into Puff Daddy, but basically, the end. I'll ruin it for you.
Well, I'm not. I've seen the other, and I wasn't planning to watch it, so you can ruin it for me. It's fine.
Okay, so I'm ruining it for the audience. Skip forward. Forward.
I'm just thinking of myself.
I want to be ruined. Well, I don't think it ruins it because this has all already happened, right? So you can always Google it anyway. But obviously, big court case with Puff Daddy. Lots of things going on. He's being accused of, rape and just all sorts of nasty stuff. It's fascinating. And how did he win? He basically got off pretty much at the end of the day. And what he did was he hired a massive team of PR people who. So the jury was instructed to go home and not watch the news. The jurors afterwards were like, it's hard not to watch the news and what people are saying.
They're not going to not watch
a lot of influence online. Yeah, they paid a lot of influence online to just peddle this story about what really happened. And so then the jury acquitted him basically of most of the deals. And yeah, buddy.
I'm gonna tell you something on the bed. When I jump, you have to spin me around.
Okay, buddy. Yeah, but I'll do it later. I'm talking to my friend Tom. Do you remember Tom?
Hello.
Yeah, I'm just talking to my friend Tom right now.
Would you see our headphones as well?
Yeah, we've both got the same headphones.
Yeah.
Why?
Huh?
Why? We don't know.
Why? Because it's we don't know. It's a very good question.
The universe is playing a joke on us.
Can we? Yeah. Can I play with you later, like in 10 minutes? Yeah?
Beep beep.
Beep, beep. Let me just try and get somebody to look after me.
This is how you know this podcast is real.
Hey.
And now, if you're still with us, we have an awkward wait while Asim goes and sorts things out in the other part of his house. We'll now play you some light elevator music.
That is how you can tell this podcast is real.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. I think that speaks to, because I think one of the things, I completely forgot what we were, but one of the ways I can tell that those videos that I'm giving is real, talking before, is that they're too perfect.
Yeah.
They're too perfect. It's like 30 minutes straight at the camera, not a single word wrong, no 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 mistake, no nothing. And I think that's one of the things we've been talking about as well, is like, how do we, there's one of the things I do, because as you know, I'm a huge fan of AI. I love it. I'm in awe of it, honestly. I love using it every single day.
I picked up on that over the last year.
But you picked up on that, yeah. But one of the things that I try and do now, and I've realized, is like I will use AI constantly in all of my research, in anything I'm going to write and post, but kind of in a very recent, I think maybe this is the thing that convinced me actually of this change in my thing, is when I write online, when I write a social media, when I do anything, I want it to be me.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna write it my way, and it's gonna use, and then what makes you is interesting, because what makes you isn't your perfection, it's your mistakes, and the unique ways that you make your mistakes, and the unique way that I write is like, it's not great. It's just my way of writing.
Often
and
they're not even
it
mistakes
just doesn't make any
in
sense.
a technical sense. They're just sorts of imperfections, quirks of the way you say things in a slightly odd way, or you explain things in a slightly, maybe not the most clean, efficient way of explaining something, or whatever it might be. It's just all those like weird quirks.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of that made me realize, like I wonder, and I'm just trying to imagine like a future here, like what's the future look like here, and I'm also trying to think positively, because it's just freaking depressing if you don't. But like positively, like what is this? Like what is happening with all this? Yes, from intentionality, you can create fake AI videos to manipulate stuff, but I think the bulk of it is just going to be stuff like this. It's just going to be, you're not really too sure what you're watching. What's interesting is that what works is if the video is like how you can detect whether statistically there's been science.
There's been
science, but there's been science. There's science, right? Science has shown. Well, I'm trying to find the stat here. Yeah. So the success rate for a human being in spotting like AI is only 62%. So like basically a coin flip, and it's slightly better for video. So we can tend to be able to take AI video more than images. And interestingly, anything with faces, we're usually very good as well. But interestingly, if you're in a good mood, you're more likely to be fooled.
Yeah.
So interestingly, I think that's why a lot of these fake AI videos are coming out, are like inspirational videos and things to make you feel great about yourself and all this other stuff. But it's just fake, because you're not in the right mindset. Like videos that are designed to make you fearful and hateful, our mind is more likely to detect AI.
Well, that's actually
where I was going with this
thing.
was like,
because Like in terms of like spreading hateful messages online, AI will be slightly less effective than spreading like more positive messages, maybe.
True. Yeah, exactly. The point I was making was, I think, like, it's also just the risk, this, and it kind of speaks to the whole idea of like what is like, it's too perfect, and I think everybody's moving to this world of like being. Why is AI videos? Why are they? The reason I can detect they're AI is because they're too perfect, and the reason that they are attempted to be perfect is because that's the way we've been. We've been taught as human beings by the algorithm to be perfect. And if we can be just perfect enough, we'll get more views. And if we cut out the fluff enough, we'll get more views. And if we keep the interest in the first 3 seconds, we'll get more views.
Yeah.
And so these AI generated videos are just so perfect. That's why that music, that's why that Spotify AI music was so perfect, because it hit every thing. It hit right on the nail. And so, like, we were talking about it, and I've been talking about, I think we're going to want to see, now that I see it, I don't want the perfection anymore. It just pisses me off. I want to see the imperfections. I was talking to you, like, should we have, because when I was talking this podcast, I was like, oh, you've got to have the intro videos 3 seconds, because statistically, the science has shown that a 3-second intro will get you people. And actually, we've then at the beginning got to do this format because that will get us more stuff. And now that I'm thinking, no, screw that. Let's do whatever the hell we want, and it'll be wrong, and it won't be great, and it will just break the rules. Because that's how people will know that it's not fake. Because
it's that randomness, it's that unpredictability of human beings.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what we're gonna maybe that's what's gonna happen, is we're just gonna have this sea of annoying perfection everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I think,
and you're then going to start watching videos of sports people who failed to do the thing that they tried to do. I don't know.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, maybe. I think there's a parallel of this in the physical world where we have. You go to like restaurants or cafes and things like this, and like if they're independent, they're always a bit rough around the edges somewhere. Even if that person has really, really like worked hard to make it beautiful and perfect, and it may well be beautiful and perfect in its own way, it's also inherently imperfect in some way. And then you get all these like chain cafes and restaurants and things that are trying to emulate the perfect independent restaurant. And some of them can be quite convincing, at a glance. But there's something about them that always just feels a bit off. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just always a bit too clean and perfect, and
it doesn't have a character.
It doesn't have a character, and you can't fake it,
feeling.
because that like real character came about because there was like a human being who was just had a character, and they were a bit imperfect, and you couldn't have put it on a plan and told the builders to like make that bit a bit shabby over there. It just, you can't really fake it in that way, and you can't replicate that across 50 restaurants around the country. and so there's something, chain restaurants are super successful. Like there's a formula and it works, just like social media, there's a formula and it works. But there's also, I think, something that gets lost, and I think I'm seeing there's a trend of like more and more people wanting kind of real physical experiences that are offline, as well as those experiences to be more like genuine. Like it is kind of independent. There's real people doing real things, and it's not just some template chain that I'm going to for some generic food or experience or whatever it is. And I think probably that kind of mirrors what's going to be happening online, where it might take a bit of time to sort of find its feet, but there will be people who will just lap up this sort of perfect templated content that's AI generated, and it ticks all the boxes, it hits all the notes in their brain that they're looking for. I'm sure all of us will be victims of that on some level, just like all of us at some point, go to chain restaurants and have a nice time. But there'll also, I think, be more and more people who are actually feel something's a bit off and they start seeking out that stuff that is a bit rough around the edges, and they're like, no, I follow these people because they feel really real. I'm not saying that'll happen for us, but
Yeah.
but I think
well, we're rough around the edges.
We're definitely
so
rough around the edges. Whether anyone will follow us for it, that's a whole different question.
Yeah, that's yeah. And I think it's an interesting way, because that's a way maybe this technology will eat itself and actually, as a result of it, make the world better. Because the AI didn't make us want to be perfect.
No,
AI didn't. We want it to be perfect.
It's a mirror, really,
right?
Isn't it?
And AI is trained upon a whole bunch of people trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so it generates this kind of like very narrow band of like experience. And I would say that and I haven't tried it, to be honest with you. I'd say it's very hard to make AI naturally rough around the edges. I think it'd be very hard to kind of make it. I think as human beings, we'll just be able to detect that level of randomness or that level of or something, or human randomness or something like that. I hope that we'll be able to detect it, and I think that's gonna make us want to be less perfect. It's like, you know, when the whole argument for like websites, you know, menu bar at the top. You know, all the UX arguments. Oh, don't make it too hard for people to know where the help button is. It's over there on the top right. Oh, if you put it somewhere else, they'll melt. Oh, my mind does melt when the button's in the wrong place. But like maybe that's the future, is more just like individual expression of like, F you, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it my way. I'm not gonna do it the way that is the perfect way. And I think that I'm interested in that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I also think people might get a bit bored because of this narrowing down that you talk about of you know, the algorithms are trying to find like the optimum way of presenting certain types of information. That everything becomes a bit samey, which is exactly what you get like in the real world on like high streets. Like it doesn't matter which town in England you go to, and with a very few exceptions, they're kind of all the same these days, because they just become like a generic template of like all the same shops that have like followed a formula. And so I think the internet increasingly is becoming that way anyway. AI will accelerate that, but then
commoditize.
Yeah, just commoditize it.
Yeah.
I think in some ways maybe it doesn't matter for certain types of content. If it's entertainment and you're watching it as entertainment, then I'm not saying that's good for people, but it probably doesn't really do much harm. I think it's more the non-fiction.
Well, I disagree there, but
well, harm in terms of the social media use is what I mean, but not the fact that whether it's AI generated or human generated. I mean, probably it doesn't make too much difference. I think it's the non-fiction,
but it's a non-fiction
stuff where it's so easy to
testimony.
Basically providing fake evidence for things that we then may think happened in the world that didn't happen in the world. Yeah.
Well, and also, like, I don't know if you know the main, like, if you and I were to go and create an AI generated video, it does have like, and I don't know the technology in particular, but it is watermarked in a certain way. So if you use Gemini or something, it's watermarked.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people at Google who can create a video and just switch off that feature.
I'm sure that
it doesn't mean
if NASA and Elon decided to fake a moon landing, they would switch that feature off.
Yeah. But I think, there's one other question we had to cover, and I thought we'd just like maybe try and briefly cover it before the end. I think it's a really interesting angle, and we haven't actually covered it yet. But does it matter if it's real if the information is good? And the reason I want to talk is that, and I think Yanis Varoufakis who to both of us surfaced this term, which I thought was a beautiful term, and it's called isagoria. So it's an ancient Greek term, and it literally means like equal speech. So in Athenian democracy, this thing called isagoria was like a very, very important concept. And so what it meant was, is that any citizen, regardless of like social status, wealth, or education, just had the right to address the assembly and be heard. And what it meant was, their argument mattered more than like, from a testimony perspective. It doesn't matter. Like the gardener's testimony mattered just as important as the general's testimony. And you have to judge the argument by the veracity of the statement. And apparently it was so important they sometimes used the words interchangeably, isagoria and democracy. It was like so important, like baked into the whole democratic process. And so the argument then becomes like, well, does it really matter? I watched that guy. The information I think was good. Hope it was not made up. I hope it was just like actual, like true, like facts of the universe that he was synthesizing into a position. But
I think you've hit the nail on the head though, because I think if you've got information that is true, and let's just, you can get into like, how do we know it's true? But like, let's just say that like, it's telling you things that did happen. Like, it's not just making stuff up. Then if the format, the presentation isn't real, I don't think that really matters if the information is accurate, because you can get real people giving you wrong information, whether that's intentionally or unintentionally. And likewise, you could get artificially generated presenters or forms of presentation that can equally give you like real information or non-real information. And I think if you could have stuff that's presented in a way where it's like if you had the news, if you had like an AI generated news channel that makes it really easy to understand and you find it really engaging, more engaging and digestible than watching like mainstream news. I think in a way that would be fine. I think it'd be better if they were like transparent that that's what they're doing. It'd be like asking, it's like you can have voice mode on ChatGPT, like, or whatever. You're talking to it and it's telling you stuff. If what it's telling you is true, then you're like, I got it from the AI, but it's giving me real information. It's the same thing, just like taken onto YouTube. I think for me, I like transparency of like whether the voice is real. Like if it's not real, at least let me decide, like know that. I think that's just because if you don't disclose it, I feel like then there's already something a bit shady going on. And then it's like, well, then why would I trust?
Because shady implies trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So with trust, I think then it goes to the point of like, look, if somebody's giving testimony of a situation, and are they giving and so it's the creator of the AI, whatever it is, they're the one that giving the testimony, but the presentation is different, which goes to the point where I think I think trust is going to be a big part of this future that we're living in, and I think earning trust and even if you're generating AI videos, or if it's you yourself as a human being, it really boils down to, are you somebody? I hope it boils down to, are you somebody? Do we learn to only listen to the people that we trust? And how do they earn that trust? I think that's the other point. Because it could boil down to in a different way. It could just boil down to, you just listen to somebody who's the most engaging, which is like demagoguery, right? It's a whole, like, and one of the side points of that I thought was just this anecdotal evidence. But I remember when these videos were on YouTube, I looked at the comments. Nobody had cottoned on that it was AI. Nobody. TikTok, a tiny proportion of them, but at least people on TikTok were commenting and going, "Oh, I think it's AI." And maybe people on TikTok are just a little bit more in tune because there's so much fake stuff in TikTok versus YouTube, I suppose. Maybe they're more in tune that they're learning to to see this stuff and judge stuff and therefore not trust it. There's trust. Trust is a big part of this, and there's a massive erosion of trust happening right now. And I think that's who will you.
Yeah,
the fact that you trust some source is now going to mean so much more.
It is, yeah. And I think even if it's AI generated, and even if it admits that it's AI generated presentation, you're going to look at but whose channel is it? Like, who's put this out? Because that's who you're trusting ultimately. And a lot of things online. I mean, the example you showed, it claimed to be that guy's personal account, right? So they made it look like it was coming from him as a human being. So that sort of thing is going to be difficult to judge against, which then you get into like Elon's blue tick kind of world where everyone's verified their identity.
Who says who then gives that blue tick, the global blue tick for who's in charge? Is it Google? Is it Google then deciding? Because one of the things Google's algorithm used to do, at least, was they want to show you from primary sources. So when you looked at stuff, you only ever got clips from like CNN, and so then you only got like this one-dimensional view of what was going on in the world because they're primary sources. But we now know that I now believe, and I think you believe, that a lot of these primary sources are also just not really telling you the truth as well. So who gets to choose? And I like where you were going before. I think we each have to then now learn. We have to, because we lived in a world where we just believed everything that was recorded, and if it looked like a human being's talking head, we trusted it as a human being's talking head, because that was very, very difficult to fake before. We let go of our own critical thinking. So we let go of Isagoria. We then like completely went the other way from Isagoria. We didn't really look at the argument. We're like, well, this guy seems to have like good.
Yeah, it's literally like, well, they said it, they wrote it.
We didn't judge it, but
they wrote it in the newspaper, or they said it on BBC News, so it's true. Which, might be true, but that mindset is basically giving away your own critical thinking. And exactly as you're saying, it's like, I trust the source more than my own judgment. I've decided that anything on BBC News must be true. So it doesn't matter what they could make up some crazy stuff, and and I just believe it because I've decided that source is 100%.
That's a
trustworthy.
Primary.
It's a primary source. Yeah.
And we've lost trust in journalism, and I think over the years, like we've lost trust. We used to, I think, 80s and 90s, or at least, some of these institutions were look, they might get it wrong sometimes, but we believe wholeheartedly that they are at least attempting to do it right. I think that's gone completely. I don't think many people. Maybe we're in a.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there. Every now and then, every now and then I mingle with normal people, and I'm surprised by some of the things that they believe. And I'm sure vice versa. Yeah. In conclusion, I think it's about us all being a lot more diligent with trusting ourselves to really look at things carefully and ask questions about, like, where has this come from? Like, what evidence do I really have that this is real? Does it matter? Like, ask yourself in each use case, does it matter? And I think the more that we rely on our own kind of intuition and critical thinking and direct experience, like if we've experienced something that makes us think that this story doesn't really like sit right with me, I think we should trust that more. It's going to be a messy world to navigate, but I think we've got to kind of navigate it from within, because the outside kind of structures are just going to melt away.
And I think it also, for me as well, this experience, and I agree with everything you just said, but the only other thing I'd add is that for me, it's also about realizing that perfection and trying to make these kind of things perfect is actually not going to help you with your case, and actually you demonstrating your imperfections and the imperfections in what you do and intentionally like leaving them in.
Yeah.
Whereas for perfectionists like me, it would be really hard. So for leaving it in. So that's actually like a permission. We now have permission to do this.
Permission to be imperfect.
Because it gives permission. We have permission to be imperfect.
Yeah.
I think now that's how you know this podcast is real.
Yeah, exactly. And with that,
I think so.
If you enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe.
Subscribe. Yeah, please do. Please like and subscribe.
And leave us a comment on Substack.
Follow us on Substack.
Telling us what you think, whether you've got thoughts on how to navigate this world and discern truth, and also whether you think that we faked this podcast episode.
Yeah, we'll start a chat on Substack, so please join us there. All right, all. Nice to see you again, Tom, and great chatting.
You too. See ya.
Bye-bye.